In May 2023, if you wanted to change $100 in Lagos, you had a choice to make. Walk into a bank and get roughly 46,000 Naira at the official rate, or walk 2 streets over to a man with a small bag and get closer to 77,000 Naira. No questions asked. Same $100, 2 different prices, sanctioned by 2 different systems. One pretended the gap didn't exist, the other made a living off of it. 3 years later, that gap has nearly disappeared. Nigeria's foreign reserves have climbed to their highest level in over a decade. Inflation, after peaking above 30%, has been cut roughly in half. And in May 2026, the man who is arguably Nigeria's most consistent opposition voice on the economy, Peter Obi, stood up and gave the central bank credit for it. What the CBN and the government are doing on the monetary side is being fairly well run, Obi said. Then came the turn, in quotes, but unfortunately you have a reckless fiscal side. This episode is about the first half of that sentence, what the Central Bank of Nigeria actually did, mechanism by mechanism, to earn that compliment. And it's about why even Obi, hardly a government cheerleader, stopped short of calling the job finished. To understand what changed, you have to understand the disease first. And it wasn't really that the Naira was weak, it was that Nigeria was running 2 economies on 2 different exchange rates and lying to itself about which one was real. For years, the CBN maintained an official exchange rate window that was, by design, more generous than the market would ever offer. Importers with the right connections could buy dollars cheap at the official window and sell them at the street rate, pocketing the difference for doing nothing but having access. Economists have a blunt name for this: arbitrage. Nigeria had a blunter one: round tripping. Think of it like a government fixing the price of fuel at half the market rate, then acting surprised when people queue for hours to buy it, not to use it, but to resell it at the real price down the road. In June 2023, the CBN collapsed the multiple windows into a single market determined rate, a willing buyer, willing seller system. On paper, this looked like the Naira crashing. In practice, it was the Naira's real price finally being written down honestly, instead of 2 prices pretending to be one. The clearest evidence that this repriced trust rather than just repriced the currency. The gap between the official rate and the parallel market rate, the black market premium, has collapsed from roughly 305 Naira per dollar in 2023 to around 11 Naira per dollar by May 2026. When that gap closes, arbitrage dies, and with it, one of the biggest quiet drains on the economy. Unifying the rate on paper means nothing if the world doesn't trust you'll actually pay dollars when you owe them. And Nigeria had a trust problem here too. Foreign investors and airlines had been waiting, in some cases for years, for the CBN to honor foreign exchange forward contracts it had already sold. Essentially, promises to deliver dollars at an agreed future date. When a central bank stops honoring those promises, word travels fast and new investors stop showing up. It is the same reason a supplier stops restocking a shop that hasn't paid its last 3 invoices, no matter how good the shop's new promises sound. Between 2023 and 2024, the CBN cleared roughly $7 billion in these outstanding obligations. It wasn't glamorous, no ribbon cutting, no press conference moment, but it was the single most important signal the CBN could send that its word was worth something again. International finance runs on trust. Once investors suspect a central bank may not honor its obligations, they begin demanding higher returns, or they stop investing altogether. The reward showed up in the reserves. Nigeria's gross external reserves rose from about $34.5 billion in February 2024 to roughly $51 billion by May 2026, according to the CBN's own reporting, the highest level in 13 years. That is the country's foreign currency emergency fund, and it now covers more than 9 months of imports, comfortably above the 3-month buffer the IMF considers a safe minimum. The third lever is the one most people have felt directly, whether they understood it or not, and that is interest rates. Think of the monetary policy rate, the MPR, as the thermostat for the entire economy. When the CBN raises it, borrowing becomes more expensive everywhere, for the government, for banks, for the businessman trying to expand his cassava processing plant. Expensive borrowing means less money chasing goods, which in theory cools inflation. Between early 2024 and late 2024, the CBN turned that thermostat up hard, taking the MPR from below 19% to a peak of 27.5%, one of the most aggressive tightening cycles in Nigeria's recent history. Here is the part that often gets left out of the celebration. This cycle has already turned. The CBN started easing in September 2025, cut again in February 2026 to 26.5%, and has held there since, including at its May 2026 meeting. That is not the central bank still stepping on the brakes, that is the central bank easing off cautiously while watching to see if inflation stays down without help. And the inflation numbers for most of this run justify the caution paying off. Headline inflation fell for 11 straight months, from roughly 35% in late 2024 to about 15% in January 2026, a genuinely rare stretch of sustained disinflation for Nigeria. It has since ticked up slightly, ever so slightly, just to under 16% by April 2026, partly on the back of the global energy and shipping costs tied to the Middle East conflict. The CBN calls this a temporary wobble, not a reversal. The next few months of data will say whether that's right. The downside is that the same higher interest rates that slow inflation also make it more expensive for businesses to borrow and expand. The fourth mechanism is the least visible to ordinary Nigerians and arguably the most important to economists. The CBN largely stopped printing money to directly fund the federal government's budget deficit. This tool has a formal name, Ways and Means Advances, but it's easiest to picture as an overdraft facility. When the government spends more than it collects in revenue, it can, within legal limits, borrow directly from the central bank to cover the gap. Used sparingly, this is a normal emergency tool every central bank has. Used constantly, it's effectively printing Naira to pay government bills, which is one of the most direct routes to inflation there is. Imagine a household that, whenever it runs short at the end of the month, doesn't cut spending or find new income. It just writes itself a personal check against its own overdraft. Every month, 4 years. Eventually, the bank statement stops meaning anything. By May 2023, this overdraft had ballooned to nearly 27 trillion naira. money created to fund government spending with no matching increase in what the economy actually produced. Under Governor Olayemi Cardoso, the CBN drew a hard line: no new financing beyond the constitutional limit. The outstanding balance was brought down to about 3.5 trillion naira by the end of 2024 and further to roughly 2.8 trillion naira by January 2026, according to the CBN governor's own remarks at the 2026 Monetary Policy Forum. To be precise about what this is and isn't, the facility hasn't been reduced to zero, and the law still permits limited use of it. But cutting it by roughly 90% from its peak and holding the line since is a real and measurable restoration of a boundary that had essentially disappeared for the better part of a decade. This is the kind of reform Peter Obi was referring to when he said the monetary side had been fairly well managed. Put the four mechanisms together: one honest exchange rate, cleared debts, a disciplined interest rate cycle, and a government that can no longer treat the central bank as a personal checkbook, and the results start to compound in ways that show up beyond the headline numbers. International ratings agencies noticed. Moody's upgraded Nigeria's sovereign credit rating in 2025, and Fitch followed with an upgraded outlook, both citing improvements in Nigeria's external and fiscal position. Foreign capital importation, money flowing into the country from abroad, rose to roughly $23 billion in 2025, a sharp reversal from the steady decline that had bottomed out at under $4 billion in 2023. The banking sector went through its own reset in parallel. A 2-year recapitalization program concluded in March 2026, with Nigerian banks collectively raising over 4.5 trillion naira in fresh capital, leaving the system, by the CBN's own accounts, better cushioned against shocks than at any point in over a decade. Around the world, once confidence in a currency is lost, rebuilding it often takes years. Argentina has spent decades battling repeated currency crises. Turkey has seen inflation surge after prolonged political interference in monetary policy. Nigeria's experience shows how quickly credibility can begin returning once policy becomes more predictable, though sustaining that credibility is an entirely different challenge. The effects didn't appear in one place, they showed up across the financial system. None of this means life got cheaper for the average Nigerian overnight. It means the foundation underneath the economy stopped actively cracking. That distinction matters because it is exactly the distinction Peter Obi was drawing when he praised the CBN. Here is the honest complication, and it is worth sitting with rather than skating past. A thermostat can make a house comfortable, but it can't fix a hole in the roof or a crack in the foundation. That is fiscal policy's job, and it belongs to a different institution entirely. The CBN controls money, interest rates, the exchange rate, how much currency circulates. The Ministry of Finance and the broader fiscal authorities control something different: taxation, government spending, and borrowing for actual projects. When Peter Obi says the fiscal side is reckless, he's pointing at things monetary policy was never designed to solve: the cost of governance, how efficiently public money gets spent, and how much of the government's own revenue disappears into debt servicing rather than productive investment. That last point has real teeth behind it. Nigeria's 2026 budget carries a deficit of roughly 24 trillion naira, with debt servicing alone consuming around a quarter of total government spending. Every naira spent servicing old debt is a naira not spent on the roads, power, and security that would let the CBN's hard-won stability actually translate into cheaper food and lower business costs. That is the two-speed story in one line. Monetary policy has done the disciplined, technical, largely thankless work of stopping the bleeding. Fiscal policy, spending, taxation, governance is what turns a stabilized economy into a growing one that ordinary Nigerians can feel. The central bank finished its leg of the relay. The baton is now unmistakably in the government's hand. 3 years ago, Nigeria was running two exchange rates, bleeding foreign reserves, printing money to cover government bills, and watching inflation climb past 30% with no obvious floor. None of those things are still true in the same way today. That is not a small achievement, and it is not the achievement of luck. It was built deliberately, one unglamorous policy decision at a time. The CBN can stabilize the economy. It cannot on its own make Nigerians wealthier. What happens next depends less on Abuja's central bank and more on Abuja's budget office. The technical repair is real. Whether it becomes a recovery Nigerians can feel in their pockets is a fiscal question now. And that is a very different story for a very different episode. I am Adeola Komolafe Luem for Nigerianomics. If you want analysis that goes beyond the headlines, subscribe, like, share, and comment, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.